Hey, this is Michael Lindsay, and welcome to the debut episode of the Off-Camber Podcast presented by Specialized. My first guest is a really close friend of mine, Donn Maeda. He is most well known for being the editor-in-chief and one of the guys behind the launch of Transworld Motocross magazine. But sadly, I will say he was the editor-in-chief over the nearly 20 years the magazine ran, because unless you haven't been paying attention to industry news, then you would know that Transworld Motocross magazine ceased publication a little over a month ago. We're going to talk to Donn about that situation. It really comes down to a big corporate buyout over his parent company that caused him and his entire staff to lose their jobs. But they took it in stride, and Donn went forward with his self-branded SwapMoto Live project, and some of his previous coworkers are on board as they try to kind of take on the legacy and the type of content they had already been doing into a new name and host. We're also going to talk to him a little bit about his love for cycling. As he'll say himself, it kind of saved his life, and also talk about a little bit about how his family affected his thoughts on motocross and how they got him involved in the industry in general. Before we get started, though, I'd like to thank the three brands that stepped up and make this podcast happen. As I said, our presenting sponsor is Specialized. The all-new Turbo Levo gives riders the power to ride more trails. And if you've been paying attention, you've probably seen the big red S floating around the pits quite a bit. They support a ton of riders in our industry with the equipment they need to train properly and train the way they want to. So check them out, specialized.com. Also, we have Fox Racing on board. Fox just dropped some springline gear, 3 sets of their airline, basically their vented gear for the hot conditions. They had a limited edition ice colorway along with a black chrome and red. You've seen the PC guys, Tim Geiser, a bunch of their riders in it the past few weeks. Check it out at foxracing.com. And also, if you want to get that gear, you can head over to shuttered.com. Chaparral Motorsports is a huge supporter of everything I'm doing on this channel in general. They've been around for more than 30 years, and also in the 160,000 square foot building they have in their main dealership floor, you can find everything related to dirt bikes, side-by-side, quads, street bikes, you name it, they've got it. Gear, parts, accessories. They have a huge online system. Like I said, check out shopmoto.com. And when you hit the checkout section, punch in the code ML512 to save yourself a few dollars off your next purchase. Now we're going to jump into our conversation with Donn Maeda, aka SwapMoto. Hey, this is Michael Lindsay. Welcome to actually the first episode of the Off-Camber Podcast presented by Specialized. This is actually not the first episode I've recorded, but I figured out of everybody I've talked to so far that Donn Maeda here has possibly one of the most interesting stories right now, because your last just a little over a month has been absolutely hectic, starting on a really, really crappy rainy Thursday here in SoCal that flipped everything upside down. And speaking of which, for a dude who technically got fired from his job a month ago, you're really hard to get a hold of.
Yeah, it's been a busy month. The first couple of days were spent sitting at home wondering what the hell happened, you know? But, man, you can't sit around with your thumb in your butt and just wait for something to come along. So we've grabbed the bull by the horns, and we're forging our own path. And this is going to be the third startup I've launched in my career, and the first one that I'm going to own myself. So hopefully the third time's a charm, you know?
There you go. It was funny as I was thinking about just what ended up happening. I think it was probably about a year whenever Dirt Rider went under. Me and you were pedaling up Skyline in the morning when we got a text. One of us got a text about them going down. We started hitting up people we knew, and me and you, as we were climbing, were just talking about the state of magazines, basically, or the state of just media in general and moto. And, you know, I remember you told me on the way up to the top, you're like, look, I can't say when, but not in the sense of what happened, but you were like, we're next because of the corporate style ownership. Yeah. You're like, well, from a print standpoint, you're like, we'll be the next to go under. But so I'm sure in your mind you had some sort of a prepared plan, but not for what happened.
Not go under.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That was just go out of print, not for the slap in the face you got.
Yeah. So I mean, of the 14 titles at the Enthusiast Network, we were firing on all cylinders. You know, Transworld Motocross was the only magazine that was still 12 times per year. And there was some talk of going bi-monthly and stuff, but actually I was kind of pumped on the idea, you know, like I was like, well, if we go bi-monthly, I have more time to do web stuff. And to be honest, man, I was a little bit burned out on magazines. I mean, I've been doing print media for almost 30 years now. And obviously the web side of things is always fun and intriguing because you create something and boom, it's right there. It's a little bit disposable because, you know, people look at it each day and they want something for free every day. But the print thing was good because, you know, it was like a pride project, you know, like, oh, look at what I made. It's like
something you can hold, something you can appreciate, something you can put on a desk, a wall, something you can hold on to, or web it goes
exactly,
and you have to dig it up. So
anyway, yeah, we were, I thought that we were going to go bi-monthly in 19, but then we hit our numbers in 18 and like, yeah, we're staying 12 times. Okay. Wrap my head around that again. And, yeah, but as we were talking about on Skyline, it's like, I had no fantasies about outlasting the others as the monthly magazine. Cause, you know, Racer X and all the high torque mags are privately owned. You know, I'm part of a big corporation with, I was part of a big corporation with a lot of corporate standards and numbers to hit and all that. So yeah, I figured we'd go bi-monthly for a while and then maybe quarterly and then maybe web only, you know, but like I wasn't afraid of the future of being web only because, I think if you look at our traffic patterns at Transworld Motocross, it's like you could always tell when we shipped a magazine because then, oh, hey, Donn would get involved with the web and, you know, I'd start posting a whole bunch of stuff. But other than that, like I'd be too distracted with the magazine because I'd say I created 70% of every issue, you know, wrote it or edited it. But yeah, out of the blue, pretty much, we were for sale for forever. I think I had 4 or 5 different owners since I launched Transworld Motocross in 2000. And to me, every time we had a sale, like people in the office would panic and come up with these like, you know, theories about who's getting fired and everything. And it's like, for me, it was like, I always knew I was the editor and I worked very hard. And so I was always like, felt pretty secure, you know? And motocross always did well. So I was like, hey, another sale, another different name on my business card, different email address maybe. But man, lo and behold, AMI bought us and they had no interest in running a motorcycle magazine. So it's funny, a little bit of insight I got at the KTM launch the other day. I ran into Jimmy Lewis, who was at Cycle World when AMI owned them. And he said, dude, David Pecker hates motorcycles. He thought that Cycle World was a huge liability. You know, someone was going to get killed and cost him a bunch of money, and he couldn't wait to sell us off. So that was a little bit of insight as to why they would have pulled the plug on Transworld Motocross, even though we were the number one magazine in the building, pretty much. You know.
I'll say, and talking about everybody running around kind of hits home to our conversation because I heard. Like I said, the day this all happened was the Thursday before the San Diego Supercross.
It was the fly intro. And it was in the
we'll
same...
get to how awkward that was. But so Wednesday, I hit you up because I have friends that are still in the snowboard industry, and one of them is a previous Transworld employee.
Yeah, I got pulled back.
So he knows people there. And I mean, those guys all went to like Denver or something for a project and got told to fly home, company meeting. So I remember texting you on that. I'm like, dude, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
You hit me back like an hour later, like, oh, you know, we got sold to this big print company. And I know at first you're like, you know, as you said, you've been sold enough time. You're like, yeah, whatever. I think the first thing you told me, I don't even know if I have to go to the group meeting. Like, it's all good. And then I didn't talk to you the next day till I got to the event we were talking about that it was across the street. And I saw Anton, everybody running around the parking lot like chickens with their heads cut off. I'm like, oh man, I was just about to text you and you text me back a bunch of scroll and crossbone emojis. That was all I got. I was like, oh no. So, I mean, that situation, you found out, what, a couple days before you're being sold, and then what happened on Thursday?
Well, so it's funny because, like, anytime there's, like, a town hall, all hands on deck meeting, if I have something planned, I'm usually like, do I really have to go to that, you know? And so I'd always text my boss, like, hey, I've got this and this plan tomorrow. And he's always like, don't worry, Maeda, you know, I'll fill you in later. You go do what you need to do. So when we got the email saying all hands on deck, you know, announcement tomorrow about our new owners. Like, I knew that we had new owners because my boss told me a couple days earlier. I was actually at Dan Bilzerian's house when I got the email. Yeah. And I was there filming some stuff with Dean Wilson. And dude, that Thursday I had 7 or 8 episodes of the SwapMoto Live studio show. I had studio time scheduled at Callaway Golf, and I think I had Plessinger, Nichols, and like I had a long list of people lined up to film shows all day Thursday. So I emailed my boss back and said, hey, I've got these shows planned, business as usual. Cool. I'm going to film these things and, I'll get filled in later. And he wrote back, Maeda, you better postpone those. And then I was like, I'm sitting there at Dan Bilzerian's house and I get that email back. You better postpone those. And then my vision just goes, like, oh shit, this is real, And I had already texted you at that point. And so then I got that and I'm like, there's something going on, I go, well, I tried to rationalize it. I'm okay. Top title, obviously top editor in the building, like the hardest working guy. Like we're good. They just probably really want us all there. So
well, my theory was, at least I knew there, like we had talked about part of the previous deal. I mean, under the entities of the Enthusiast Network, there were some that weren't doing that well. So I figured not to. Okay, I was trying to undersay a little bit, but that's what I figured when you still said you were getting bought. I thought, okay, if it's that big, like snowboard guys all got recalled, I'm like, something's getting cut. Somebody's going bye-bye, but yeah.
So I'm like, well, hey, we got it going, guys. And honestly, the night before, Wednesday night at dinner, I told my family, I go, hey, I think we're getting fired or something. And they're all, well, why would you? You're the only 12-time mag. You guys are firing on all cylinders. And so I had a feeling the whole time. And then, we all started getting emails like, oh, you meet in this room at this time. And I was like, huh, okay. And then we got an email that said, I got my email that said meet at 11 in the snowboard conference room. And I'm like, well, most town halls are usually in the skate park, where everybody's in there. I go, so we're getting called in this little small room that can only hold like 20 people. And so, we're all talking. So we all figured out that's all the entire motocross staff and the BMX staff are in this little room. And I'm like, well, maybe we got sold to someone different, because we're a BMX and MX, And we get called in and we're in there and I prepared myself for the worst, and actually, before the meeting, my boss pulled Don Wilson and I aside and he told us, hey, AMI bought us. And unfortunately, they have no interest in having a motorcycle title. And I'm like, okay, so we're sold to who? And he's all, no, they want us to take care of shutting down the title. Like I guess they said, we want to buy the Enthusiast Network, but we don't want that motorcycle magazine or the BMX magazine. And 10 said, no, it's a package deal. And so AMI said, no, we don't want it, so shut it down before we buy it. So I was my whole staff, we were laid off by the Enthusiast Network, not by AMI. So I've never been part of AMI. We were laid off by the Enthusiast Network on that Thursday. I think our meeting was 11, and at 11:30, all of our passwords and everything were changed. So, yeah, it was definitely a shock. I mean, it was a shock, but I expected it, if that makes any sense. Like when they announced in the meeting, Anton was all, whoa! But I was kind of prepared for it. So, yeah. But in the meeting with my boss, Norb, he said, if you are prepared, like if you have any resources to purchase it, I don't see why they wouldn't sell it, as they have no interest in it. So, it's crazy the amount of support we got from the industry and people within the industry, companies and stuff. I pretty much had backing to buy the thing before I got home that night. People calling, and obviously talk is cheap, and everybody says, "Oh yeah, whatever you need." But I had some very real people call, and some of the people that offered to help were shocking. Like I wouldn't have expected it, and they say in like times of hardship or whatever, you find out who your real friends are, right? And like, dude, I've got more real friends than I ever thought I had. And the number of people that called and stuff was mind blowing. But Yeah, so that's it. Pretty much, we devised a plan, and Don Wilson and I we put an offer in, and I thought it was going to be all good because the controller from AMI called me the next day. The controller from AMI called me the next day and was like, "Well, I heard you want to buy the magazine. Why would you want to buy it?" I said, "Well, because it's like my third child, you know." Yeah, I launched it. And he goes, "Oh, you launched it?" And I go, "Yeah, I launched it in 2000. And so then he goes, "Oh, what would you want to offer us to pay for it and still think you could turn a profit?" And so I said, "Well, hey, I'm not a numbers guy, you know. I think you need to get Don Wilson on the phone as well." But we ended up making an offer, and they acted like they wanted to get closed right away, like really quick. And we called back the next Monday, because this was Friday, and we called back Monday, and they said, "You want to make another offer?" And we're like, "Why? Was our offer rejected?" And he goes, "No, but there's other interest." And so I think that Monday night was like the worst day in this whole past month for me. Like, to think that someone would want to
take it over without you being involved.
Yeah, to buy like essentially my child, you know, like to someone wanted to buy my shit, you know, like someone's going to buy it out from under me, you know, someone's competing against me to get it. And I was just like losing my mind thinking like, how could they buy it and think they could run it without me and my staff, you know? Like realistically, I mean, you know what's out there as far as journalists and motocross.
What talent's available. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, there's no way. So then, you know, my mind started racing like, oh, dude, it's my competitors. They're buying it to bury it and get me. And I was super bummed Monday night. And, you know, it's funny is it was raining the whole time. You know, like I associate rain with like all the bad things that happened in my life. Like, I remember my mom died. It was pouring rain like the whole time. So like, it's funny because it wasn't raining when we got fired. We walked outside and it started pouring. But so it rained the whole time, right? The whole weekend. And then Tuesday morning I woke up and it was sunny. And I checked my email and boom, I had this email from the interested party who was trying to buy it. And they had apparently trying to reach out to me on my Transworld email address that was shut down. And they're all, "Oh yeah, we finally found you. Hey, we want to buy Transworld Motocross as is. You know, hire you and your staff. Business as usual." And the guy was super cool. And it's like, you know, when you're talking to someone, you could tell that you'd be friends. You'd probably hit it off with that guy. That guy was super cool. And I was like, well, hey man, you know, like I've already like got in my head that I want to try to buy it and own it myself. And he was like, "Dude, I feel you completely. And, you know, I wish that I had bought my title when I had the chance, but, you know, we were bought by this other company and, you know, so I'm representing that company now to call you." He's like, "Hey, best of luck. Call me if you need anything, but, you know, we'll back off." And the next day, we talked to the people at AMI and they're all, "Hey, so they withdrew their offer. They withdrew their interest." And so I'm thinking, "Oh, it's ours. We got it." And then he goes, "You want to make another offer?" And I'm all, "Why?" You know, they withdrew their interest.
There's another interested party.
No. And he says, "Well, Mr. Pecker's not motivated by that number." So we made another offer, like a knee-jerk offer. And then I thought about it and I called back and offered more because I wanted to be serious, you know, like I really wanted it. And then we had an attorney draft up an offer letter and say what assets we were looking to get and what liabilities we would assume, you know, the subscription liabilities and some of the advertising that was prepaid and stuff. And got a call back. "Hey, well, we got your offer, but we're not interested in selling at the moment. Check back at the end of March or in April." I can only speculate why there is that delay, but I'm not going to say why.
I'll touch on it because I feel bad that now I think about it. I've been around to two really miserable points. The Thursday near your office, I was there. And the day that the National Enquirer Bezos stuff went down, me and you were stranded in an airport trying to get Minnesota, because when we got on the plane, I texted you a TMZ article. I'm like, you have to read this, because I was bored out of my mind, because we had both been stuck in an airport for 5 hours, and I had run out of things to read. So I went to TMZ.com, and there was blatant, like, just posted. Basically, and I have not read all details. If somebody wants to, they can go dig it up. It's basically this long-winded thing between, for anybody who doesn't know, AMI owns the National Enquirer, Men's Journal, Globe, bunch of stuff like that. National Enquirer is in this big thing with trying to blackmail Bezos on some photos, and he owns Washington Post, and there's this political thing and AMI getting paid back, blah, blah, blah. Big, long political runaround. They're now being investigated, and I can only say that's probably a big reason why everything with them I have right now has pretty much been put on hold.
I would guess, I mean, that's the most logical guess, but, I'm still hopeful. My offer is on the table. My offer's on the table, and I'm still interested in acquiring parts of the property. I don't know that I want to be a magazine publisher anymore. We made a conscious decision. Hey, we're going to go with Plan B. So Plan B has become Plan A, and that's SwapMotoLive.com and the social channels, etc. And man, I knew this was coming, because I still in close contact with Norv, my old boss, and he kind of warned me that was coming. But man, the shit's kind of hit the fan this week, with people all pissed off, like Transworld Motocross subscribers, like all 67,000 of them.
They're getting some Men's Journal.
Yeah, a letter that says, hey, Transworld Motocross is ceased publication, or Transworld Motocross. They spelled motocross wrong. Has ceased publication, and you're going to get Men's Journal, right? So, I mean, Instagram's blown up.
Some of the Photoshops are good.
Yeah. Some of those are pretty good. But yeah, man, I mean, dirt bike guys don't want to read Men's Journal. I've learned a long time ago when we first started Transworld, is like, we used to do like training stories and fitness stories, and we used to do these like pretty detailed reader surveys after every issue. Yeah, fitness is a huge part of motocross.
They don't want to read it.
Dirt bike guys don't want to read about training in a motocross magazine. They read a training magazine, I guess, so. But yeah, Men's Journal, come on, it's got like nothing to do with motorcycles. So, yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I everyone that's contacted me directly, I'm like, hey, that's out of my control. Sorry, request a refund. I mean, I can't see how that's, completely legal to substitute one product for the other. There has to be an option for a refund. So I don't know. But, hey, my offer is on the table with those guys. If they call me into March or in April and say, do you want to buy it? I'll say, yeah, I want to buy it, but I don't want the magazine. You killed the magazine with the Men's Journal thing. Yep. Because I wouldn't be able to pick up the subscriptions where we left off. So, yeah, if we got a hold of the social channels, that'd be great.
Let's talk a little bit about, kind of when a funny little backstory anybody knows. So with just leaving TWMX, my boss there was the guy that originally hired you at Transworld, Brad McDonald. So when all this went down, in your guys' situation, me and Brad had talked a little bit about just like what it takes these days to run magazines. And something I thought that was daunting, and I want to know how much this kept you awake at night, for guys to think, okay, so what would be the difficulties? Okay, if these guys go out and buy Transworld and, just buy it as is and turn the key back on, cool. What does that mean? But I think a really big daunting one is, if you guys pick up the subscriber list, it doesn't mean you pick up the money from the subscriptions, from what I'm aware. So you guys would be responsible for the print costs of the magazines for the rest of the year.
Printing the magazine. Well, the subscription revenue is not anywhere close to being like a moneymaker.
No, it's basically barely to offset the cost of what it actually takes to print each issue.
Yeah, and subscription promos and all that, I mean, Transworld was far less guilty of it than, say, like Dirt Rider was. Like, there's so many. Like, when I worked at Dirt Rider, our sub, I think we had 220,000 subscriptions.
Yeah,
or circulation.
A lot of that, like,
a lot of junk stuff, like doctors' offices and those.
Yeah, freebie gives away school systems, like you get 5 magazines.
$1.97, stuff like that. But We had a pretty efficient subscription list at Transworld. And it's funny because Transworld Moto compared to, say, MXA, like over 80% of our circulation was subscriptions, right? So that was like invested readers that cared enough about it to
keep re-upping,
to buy a subscription instead of a casual newsstand guy. So I think most of MXA and high torque stuff is newsstand, right? So that's why you see them on the newsstand more. And you have to pay to get on newsstands. I think a lot of people don't realize that. You think you just put it out there and get it. You have to pay to be
They picture you walking into the Starbucks and actually putting on newsstand.
Yeah. But so man, newsstand is a very expensive thing. So, we still thought we were going to get it. We're like, hey, we're just going to move forward with subs only and not jack with the newsstand thing. But man, I want to say printing each issue was like $180,000.
So to put it bluntly, for somebody who doesn't want to do the quick math, let's say you guys went through a quick purchase and you guys basically missed 1 month of print or something and you reoperate and you would have done 8 issues this year. That was going to be over $1 million to take on.
Yeah, dude.
So how was that laying awake at night scary?
Well, here's the thing is that, man, like, my whole life I've been like the creative guy. I write stories and come up with ideas and all that, and never been the business guy. Never, to be honest, I've never even paid attention to my budgets at work. It's like every month I'd get the budget. Every editor would get their budget for the month and how they're doing for the year and stuff. I would open it and go, how come some numbers are in parentheses and some aren't, right? And I would just walk down to Nora's office, and she was our finance lady, and she's super cool. I would just like peek my head in her office and like, the movie with Caesar, like,
good and bad.
And she'd always go, you're doing great, because like, man, from when Garth Milan and I started Transworld Motocross, we always did everything ourselves. Like I want to say of all the magazines, like if you out of 100%, I'd say less than 10% of it was ever bought, the contributor stuff. We always shot our own photos, always wrote our own words.
Send guys to races unless somebody decided to either fall down or get sick the day before they fly out.
Yeah. So, I mean, aside from, Eric Johnson, who was a huge blessing in the most recent years, he would contribute some great words for us. Man, we did everything ourselves. So our buyout budget started out the same size as everybody else's. And, I never spent it. So, of course, it got taken from me and given to the other magazines that were floundering, So by the end, I don't even know the exact number, but like say I had $100,000 at first, like I probably ended up with like 26, and still didn't use it all. But, so yeah, I mean, I was never the numbers guy, right? So I was kind of, I am ignorant to all that. And the last month has been like a crash course in business for dummies 101, right? Like I've talked to attorneys.
Is that book holding up your chair right now?
Yeah. But I've talked to attorneys and CPAs and it's funny, man. Like one of my really good friends who's advising me through all this, we had this meeting and we started talking numbers and stuff. And he's all, bro, he called me later. He's all, we lost you at like minute 37 when we started talking numbers. You got this glazed look on your face. Seriously, man, the business part of it is so foreign to me. And hey, my job for the last 30 years has been to create cool content that people want to consume. It's not been to like figure out like how much this costs and that costs and et cetera, et cetera. So man, I had no idea the magazine cost that much to produce, And then when we finally started sitting down with it, Don Wilson and I were looking at the numbers and we were going, wow, can we do this? And Wilson is like, yeah, we can do that. We found out what some mysterious line items on our P&Ls were. We were paying a disproportionate amount of rent in the building. We had like 8 cubicles, 3 offices and 5 cubicles. And yeah, I think we were carrying more rent than like the skate magazine that had that whole skate park and everything, you know. Yeah. But it's like taxes, you know. The more you make, the more you get taxed. So, so with the way we looked at it was like, hey man, if we get out from under this expense, and this expense, we're solid.
Pretty good,
you know. So, yeah, of course the numbers
daunting.
The sheer numbers, yeah, hell yeah, daunting for sure.
Well, I was gonna say, I know the day after everything went down, the next morning amongst, I'm sure I'm one of like 100 people that freaking called you, but we chatted for a bit that next morning. And, you know, at the time you're like, yeah, I'm gung-ho. Me and Donn Maeda, we're gung-ho at buying this. We want to run it. But we had also talked about your backup plan at the time. Mm-hmm. Basically, we kind of had a conversation about the ability to brand yourself these days, how much that's changed in the last couple of years, and how you can pretty much launch something just from a very simple digital platform that can be successful. So I do have to say, I think that morning or sometime that week we'd talk, and I said, you know, it could end up being a blessing in disguise if you don't have to go that route and do your own. And I know you said at the time you had a lot of other people telling the same thing, like, hey, if everything doesn't go through, just do your SwapMoto thing, like do it, it'll work. But you told me a funny conversation as well that you had when you first started doing the shows at the Callaway studio. You were like, nah, nobody gives a crap what I'm doing, like me as myself and I is doing. So how's it been wrapping your head around the idea, like, okay, people care enough about like me and my person to like launch something? It was
more so like when OGO came to me with the idea for that show, I was like, what? You want me to do what? You know, like everybody knows me. Everybody knows that I am Transworld. Like I made Transworld. Transworld didn't make me, right? So I'm like, yeah, okay, everybody knows who I am and stuff, but I don't want to be that ham in front of the camera, you know? And he showed me a sample of the Callaway show. And it's a great show, you know, but they have like a live studio audience for that one. And it's like literally, it's like the Tonight Show or something. The guy comes out, hey, yo, thanks for watching. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I can't do that. You know,
I'm not that guy.
You know, yeah, I can't do that. Like the only time I've been in front of the camera prior to that was like red carpet interviews and stuff at like movie premieres that we covered and stuff.
Yeah.
Or, you know, certain one-off things, you know, that race series videos, I'd host a video, but I was like, dude, I can't pull that off. Like, what do I want to be in front of the camera interviewing someone? I'd rather be behind the camera firing the questions off. But they talked me into it, and I want to say it was a blessing in disguise, you know. And I owe this endeavor that we're on now. The seeds were planted by my buddy at OGO. So yeah, the first show I ever recorded was with Cole Seeley. And I chose Cole first because we're good friends, you know, and I felt comfortable. But dude, I was like sweating bullets and, you know, sitting in that studio on this chair.
Surprisingly, sitting in a chair is a lot less uncomfortable than you just sitting on the tailgate interviewing guys at the track.
Yeah,
like you've
totally,
always done.
Totally. So, I mean, the whole SwapMoto live show presented by OGO was a huge blessing, right? Because I had like 7 months of that going. So there was some brand recognition there already with the SwapMoto Live name, and the logo. Logo was well known already. And yeah, and then, well, shit, like 3 months ago, I got a wild hair up my butt and started the podcast, you know, and called OGO up and said, hey, I'm taking your advice and investing more in myself, and I want to do a podcast now. But it's like my podcast. It's not Transworld's. And they're all okay. And I'm all, but I'm going to host it on Transworld, but I need it to fly under the radar a little bit. So the best way for it to fly under the radar is to have the same title sponsor.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they agreed to that. And so, yeah, so I started the podcast in December, I believe. And that's been a lot of fun. Like, I mean, as you know, every time there's some sort of new technology in media, it's kind of invigorating to learn a new style of something, right? So like for years I shot photos and wrote words, and then like when I made the first Kickstart movie in 2010, that was exciting to learn how to do video, you know, because previous to that, videos were made with film cameras, right? And didn't want to learn how to hassle with that. But by 2010, you know, I just bought this $8,000 camera and learned how to edit on YouTube, right? So that was super exciting to learn a new form of media. So like the podcast thing, man, it's easy. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it's just editing audio, and it comes from doing, I mean, that's editing audio is not that bad. The one that cracks me up is the YouTube thing. Every time I need to learn how to do something anymore, it's just like go to YouTube. I remember the main video guy I worked with at Vital had some like Red Bull wingsuit project, something big come up last month. I was like, I can't come to the Zaka station. She was a week before, and I'm supposed to, or
I remember that.
I'm supposed to be a test track. Yeah. So I brought Silverstein. Same thing. I've been shooting on my DSLRs for a couple of years now, decent with photos. I'm like, okay, well, I understand the whole, like, understand how to do a shot. Like, that's not the problem. Then I go back to the hotel that night, and I only open Premiere to do audio projects. I'm like Googling how to edit a video, how to transfer, how to do this. I'm just in there. So it took me like 7 hours that night, but I just sat up all night and watched YouTube how to produce a video.
Totally. But man, I think though that as a photographer, you already have the skill of following someone with the camera and all that, and you have a good eye. So, I mean, I told you when you first started, I'm like, dude, you're a really good photographer. You've learned really fast. And obviously in my mind, it's because of technology, right?
I can say it electronically. You're able to, it's somewhat repetition. You can sit there with a digital DSLR and just keep going, okay, I effed up. Do this again, where...
Dude, in the slide film days...
You didn't find out you effed up till a couple days later.
Yeah, I mean, you had to really understand things, you know? Like, it's pretty funny to think back now, Garth and I going, no, digital's gay. We'll never go digital. We're filmed to the death.
When you said you were so excited about new technology, I was going to be like, yeah, you and Garth said you were going to continue your magazine on
slide film.
Slide film
50
only.
ISO Velvia, right? But shooting photos with slide film, it took a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience to know what was going to do what, you know, like learning how to overexpose because of backlight, right? Yeah. When you had to carry this light meter around your neck. But
that was even like when I first started shooting. I did it when I think I was just like hurt when I was 15, and I took like a crappy little kit Nikon DSLR to the track, and I shot some stuff of I was hanging around Tommy Searle quite a bit at the time, and I shot some stuff. I think they ran in like that British magazine or something. I had zero clue how the camera worked.
Were you on the Running Man setting?
Yes, I was. But the thing, coming from riding, you know what people are looking for in photos. So I was able to take an okay photo, but it took so many attempts. And then when I started Vital, is that kind of aspect of, you know, I hear what you guys say about side film. I'm like, look, I don't want to be a lazy bum. So I shot all manual at Nationals, everything. I'm like, I want to know and learn how to do this.
Yeah, but that's the amazing thing about digital photography is you can instantly see what the dial did, what that click meant.
Yeah,
right?
like we said, when you're learning about backlighting or stuff, you can just be so just keep repetition doing it in the moment.
And it's essentially free. Yep. You're not burning through film and processing, right? So, I mean, that's why photos and videos have gotten so tough and so competitive, and everybody's good, you know? Everyone's good. Every kid that buys a Rebel can shoot great photos, right? So, especially web-worthy, because it doesn't matter how many megapixels it is for print.
Yeah.
But
you can zoom, you can crop in from quite a ways away and get some little photo, go ground print. They ask you, hey, or in web, and they're like, hey, can we get that for print? And you're like, well, the photos start out this big.
Totally.
Hey, apologies. Take a quick break here in the middle of the show just to thank the 3 brands once again that have made this podcast happen. We're presented by, or brought to you by, Specialized Turbo Levo, giving riders the power to ride more trails. Fox Racing, who just recently dropped 3 Springwear, their 2019 airline gear in a limited edition ice, a black chrome, and red gear. If it's warming up in your area and you need some vintage gear, check them out. Lastly, Chaparral Motorsports. They've been around for more than 30 years, whether it's dirt bikes, quads, side-by-side, street bikes, anything in apparel you can think of, parts and accessories. They got about everything you need to keep on moving, and they have more than 30 years of experience to help you. Make sure if you use SwapMoto.com to drop in the code ML512 to save yourself a few dollars at checkout. And now we're going to jump back into our conversation with Donn Maeda.
But yeah, dude, technology has changed everything. You know what technology will never help with? YouTube will never help with? How to write a freaking story. You know, like when I started off as the locals editor at Cycle News, like to me, riding was easy, right? Like my whole life, I credit my mom with this because like we always read a lot of books together. Like we would choose a book and she'd read it during the day while I was at school, and I'd come home and I'd read it, and then we talk about it at night, right? I think reading is the core of my riding ability. It certainly wasn't school because I graduated high school with like 2 point something because I didn't care, you know, I didn't try, and I got booted out of college. But I could always write well, you know, like honors English, I always pulled A's off, you know, and you can't learn that, you know. And it's like when I started at Cycle News as the locals editor, I realized how poorly the average person writes. And it was shocking, you know, like my first job was the locals editor, so I had to correct all those stories that came in, you know. Like I was editing Tony Alessi's Paris Raceway stories, you know, but it was really shocking. And I've always said this to everybody that's asked me for advice is like, hey, everyone can shoot a photo, everyone can shoot a video. If you want to make a mark, you need to learn how to write and have a writing style. And you know, it's funny. It's like I've always believed that's something that you can't learn late in life, that you have to have, you know, you have to be reading and writing well from childhood, right? You want to know who's proven me wrong? Casey Davis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was terrible when he first started hanging around. And I told him that. I go, hey, yeah, you're a great photographer. Great. I go, but if you want to make a serious run at working for me, you better go to school and take some writing classes. So he took some like online English classes and stuff and kept writing, and he'd send me stuff and I'd edit it, and he would pay attention to what I edited, and he proved me wrong. Like Casey learned how to write in his 20s, and it was really impressive. So I don't know. You ain't gonna learn how to write on YouTube though.
No, that's not happening. One, you know, we've talked so much about the Kern. I wanted to touch on a little bit is just your whole background on getting into moto. I mean, I know your brothers have heard a lot of stories, and I mean, you come from a family with your brother growing up racing, but there's also a big age gap between you two. And I would say your interest in actual motocross came quite a bit later, from my understanding. Like what, you know, your own personal riding experiences and stuff wasn't quite the same.
No, well, let's see. So Ross is 17 years older than me. Yeah,
Were you the accident child?
Yeah. I remember when I got to the age and I realized I was an accident, and I was like, "Hey, Mom, I was an accident, huh?" And she's all, "Oh, you were a pleasant surprise," you know.
Pleasant surprise. What a way of wording it.
But I mean, my mom was 40 when I was born, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I was a total accident, and so like I grew up with 3 dads, you know, not 2 brothers, and I remember my mom telling me, you know, like I was at Saddleback in a crib when I was like only a couple months old. So I grew up around it. I definitely remember it when I was little, you know. I remember laying on the bed in Ross's room and watching him like cut out these like pieces of plastic, making a nose piece for his goggles and stuff. And I remember like when he got this one chest protector, the old school chest protectors look like a Mickey Mouse balloon, you know, the foam thing. I remember he got it and he's all pumped and he had it hanging in his bedroom, and he was just like staring at it and telling me how cool it was. And I was like, okay. But like, I didn't really have any interest in riding too much. I mean, Ross taught me how to ride a mini bike in the backyard when I was little. But, you know, I had asthma when I was little, like really bad. Like if I laughed too hard, I'd get asthma and I have to suck on my inhaler. And so as a result, I was like super fat. And, you know, I was this like fat kid with low self-esteem. And when I was, I think in junior high, my oldest brother, he had quit riding motorcycles because he got hurt a bunch, but he was riding a ATC 110, just farting around on the thing. And he started taking me with him, and we'd share it. We'd take turns riding it and had a lot of fun. And I remember my oldest brother told my dad, like, "Hey, man, Donnie has like no confidence and no self-esteem. We got to like, every kid has to have his own thing. So they bought me a 3-wheeler, my own 3-wheeler, right? And dude, I'll be down. It changed my life. Like having my own thing, like the group of kids I ran with from childhood, from, kindergarten, I had all the same friends. They were all involved in, basketball and baseball and stuff. And like, I couldn't do any of that because I was fat and uncoordinated and I had asthma. So in junior high, that was like around the time where they like started calling me fat boy and stuff and like leaving me out and excluding me from stuff. So, but then dude, I got this dumb little 3-wheeler and it was like, oh, Don's cool. He's got this 3-wheeler, right? So like I said, like I've written about it before, I refer to it as the esteem boosting 3-wheeler. But dude, it was great.
It turned you from what is it? You wrote
Rotatus.
Rotatus to cool guy.
Yeah. But I mean, the 125 Suzuki balloon tire 3-wheeler turned into like a Kawasaki 250 race trike. And so I started racing those things. And all along, Ross is like, 3-wheelers are gay. That thing's a couch, making fun of it. No, he called him a chair, right?
Oh,
but
I just had a horrible thing.
So he always made fun of me for that, right? And but it was fun, and my dad got super into hopping up my 3-wheeler and stuff, and yeah, dude, I'm not embarrassed of starting on a 3-wheeler. It's all right. It's lame, but I look back at those times in my life, and it was a good time.
Hey, I know you got tagged in a lot. There was that shop back east taking the new Huskies and turning them into 3-wheelers.
Yeah, right.
Hey, now you're SwapMoto Live. You can test whatever you want. You can throw it back.
No, our tagline is life on 2 wheels, not 3.
Yeah, third. I was going to say the life on 2 wheels, what you're doing SwapMoto Live reminded me of something else. There was 2 things I wanted to touch on that's kind of like family moments and what they've done for you. A lot of people that follow you notice now, like you're big, like in the sense ambassador for cycling, like you love mountain biking now. I swear you do spend more time on a mountain bike than a dirt bike these days by quite a bit. And it's funny talking to your brother about that, because I think I never really asked you on a ride about it, but I asked your brother one time we were at lunch and he told me about your dad all of a sudden later in life getting into downhill and stuff, and all you guys started riding bicycles for a while together.
So in the 90s, well, when mountain biking first was born, right? I remember my dad just brought this bicycle home one day, and it was a GT Timberline. It's a steel 26-inch, no suspension, rigid bike. It was baby blue or something. But he brought it home, and I was all, what's that? He goes, yeah, I got it for you. I go, what is that? And he goes, it's a mountain bike. It's called a mountain bike. And I'm all, okay. And he's all, see the knobby tires, they work as suspension. And I was like, cool. And so, where I lived in Pasadena, we had that JPL. So I rode it down and I found this hill. I was wearing no helmet, and dirt hill, and I just sent it down the hill thinking the tires were going to work like suspension. just ate it really bad and was like, this is dumb, and like, then for some reason my dad like got all interested in it and he bought his own, and I don't know how to evolved in there, but he was like super into like the technology and stuff, and suspension was in its infancy in mountain biking. So yeah, I wrote that story on my Instagram about that fork that he bought.
Yeah.
But yeah, he got super into it, man. My dad was like, he was late 60s, almost 70. And he ended up with a Cannondale Super V dual suspension bike, and it looked radical at the time. It looked like a praying mantis. The frame was shaped all crazy. But he got super into it, and then he wanted to race downhill. And dude, my dad did the kamikaze downhill at 68 or 69 years old. And it's so super funny because we had these like little computers that you put the thing on the wheel, and it
tell you how fast you're going.
We all raced my wife, me, I want to say my brother John might have done it, but my dad did it. We all did the kamikaze downhill, and like I flatted 20 feet into my run, and I was riding a hardtail. But I remember my dad went like 52 miles an hour or something. It just sent it. It was funny because he comes down into the pavilion And the announcer's all, oh, check this out. This is Sam Maeda, the oldest guy on the mountain. And he's coming down, and everybody's cheering for him. And he was like, what? He crashed. But yeah, so that was my first mountain bike obsession, I guess. But it was mostly just to spend time with my dad. And when my dad passed away, I kind of lost interest. And yeah, actually, I had a Yeti mountain bike that John Parker from Yeti had given me. And I was riding it one morning, and we were climbing Brown Mountain in Pasadena. And Forrest Hayashi and I used to do it all the time together. And one morning I was riding by myself, and I'm like, dude, I'm badass at this. I can make it to the top without stopping. And I heard someone catching me, and I'm like, it's probably some roadie dude in a polka dot jersey. And it ended up being this like Hispanic guy on a Huffy, and it had fluorescent green cable housings, and he had a pair of work boots and jeans on, and he had a floor pump duct taped to his top tube of his frame, and he passed me. And I was like, that's it. I suck. And that was the last time I ever rode that Yeti. I seriously turned around, I went home, and I never rode it again. So the last time I rode a mountain bike was probably in like 92, 93 or something. And then, like 5 years ago, I had that eye-opening doctor's appointment, like 40, 45 years old. Your doctor's, oh, dude, you're way overweight. You got high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar. Take these medicines. Right? I'm like, dude, I'm a motocross racer.
Yeah, I mean, fine. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's the toughest sport in the world. And he's like, no, take these medicines. So I took them for a couple of days, and they made me feel really shitty. And I remember this one weekend I was racing a SoCal Old Timers race at Paris, and I was winning the Masters class or something. And I was leading this guy named Dan Berg, who was like a top pro when I was at Cycle News. And I was like, oh my God, I'm beating Dan Berg. But I was so tired at like the 15-minute mark that I pulled off because A, I was out of shape, and B, because the medicine made me feel kind of screwy. And I left before the second moto, and I came home, and I was so mad at myself. I like got the Yeti out from my rafters, and I went to the Skyline and rode it. And I think I rode it every day for like 2 months. And then the chain snapped one day, and I went over the bars. And so I called Sean Estes at Specialized, who I'd met when he was working at Easton and sponsoring the Ahmad Troy team. And through the years, he'd called on me for like photos, and I'll get a photo. We're giving McGrath a new bike or this and that. And I've done everything because we're buddies, right? And I was like, hey, I got to get healthy, and I want to get a new bicycle. Can you sell me one for cheap? Because Giant has this program where I could buy one half off, but Specialized is cool, so I want to buy one of those. And he took care of me, and man, it changed my life for sure. I mean, I didn't go back to the doctor for like 3 years, and when I did, he's like, oh, I thought you'd quit me because I offended you.
Or you died.
Yeah. But I did my testing, and I had lost 26 pounds, and all my levels were normal. And yeah, mountain bike saved my life.
So your life and started a all new obsession that you can carry into your next adventure.
Yeah.
I was joking. I always said if I ever saw you leave Transworld Moto, it'd be to run a mountain bike magazine.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, I talked to a mountain bike magazine. They called me. But yeah, no, I'm going to do my own thing.
So other kind of huge life-changing thing I see for you, I met you, I think I want to say, I've met you at the track before, but I got to know you once I started hanging around with your brother all the time. And of course, I had met your brother, Ross, I used to see him in Star West every Monday before he got hurt. And I was actually there, day he got injured, but I left before that. So I remember coming to his fundraisers, and then just over the years, me and him always just kind of chatting, keeping up with each other. And I ended up working for him for a short time, etc. But through him is mostly how I got to know you, and then my deal media, and got to know your whole staff and everything. But I mean, your brother's situation, I can't imagine. Now I'd always seen a person in a chair and thought, man, it must really suck to be stuck in a chair. Mm-hmm. And then being around him, I see everything that comes with it. But that's just what I see from the outside looking in, not the some of the mental stuff that can come for somebody. I mean, I talked to you, your brother is a big part of your life, and you guys both shared moto together. He gets paralyzed. How long, I mean, did you question riding again after that? Like being involved in this still, or?
Wow. Yeah, it's funny is that Rossi got me to switch to motorcycles, you know? And it's funny, growing up, I was always super close with my oldest brother. And then when I started riding motorcycles, I think Ross was kind of embarrassed of me at first because I was a three-wheeler guy and, you know, fat little brother. But, dude, those days that we spent riding in the hills on the weekend were, they pretty much shaped who I am now, you know. So a lot of the best days of my life were spent riding with Ross. And I remember there's a point when we were at Elsinore one day and I'd gotten a little bit better finally, and he would still always kick my ass, but it was so fun to ride with him. And I remember there was one day at Elsinore that I was like, it'll never get better than this. Like, a lot of fun riding with my big brother. So we used to ride together all the time, and I would always try to keep up, or he would always try to teach me how to not look so stiff when I jumped. But oddly enough, the day he got hurt, I was flying to Vegas to go check the venue at the Hard Rock for our first Transworld Award show. And he called me, and I was on my way to the hospital, or I was on my way to the airport. He called me, he goes, "Hey, let's go to Star West." And I was like, "Oh, Rossi, I'm going to Vegas. I got to do this thing." He goes, "Okay, well, hey, have fun." And so I just landed in Vegas, and I walked into the Hard Rock, and I shook hands with the manager, and my phone rang, and it was Ross on my phone. And like, it was the weirdest thing, but instantly I knew something was wrong, because there'd be no reason for him to call me again, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we're close, but it's like we didn't call and talk bullshit to each other, you know?
Yeah, he wouldn't call you after.
Yeah, he wouldn't call me to say, "Dude, the track was sick, you missed out." So as soon as his name popped up on my phone, I knew something was wrong. So I told the Hard Rock guy, I was like, "Hey, let me take this call." And I answered the phone, and sure enough, it was this woman on the phone. I was like, "Hello?" And she said, "Is this Donnie?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She's all, "This is such and such. I'm the EMT at Star West." And the first thing I said to her was, "Can my brother walk? Is he paralyzed?" And she's all, "Well, I'm not allowed to talk about that. I just want to let you know he had a crash." And I'm all, "Can he fucking feel his legs?" And she's all, "Well, that's kind of the issue we're having right now." And I said, "Hold on." And I looked at the Hard Rock guy and I said, "Yeah, venue looks great. I'm out of here." And I got back on the phone and I said, "What hospital?" And got on the phone with my travel agent while I was in the taxi going back to the airport. And I said, "You got to get me home immediately." And fortunately, they were able to get me on a flight within the hour. And got to the hospital, and man, it was crazy. Like, being paralyzed is like, I think, everyone's biggest fear, right? And Ross was always so smooth and calculated, and he never, you know, at that stage of his life, he never rode over his head. You know, he always rode like 80%, because there'd be those days when I thought, I'm hanging. And then he'd go, "Bitch," and pull that extra 10% out of his back pocket and wax me, you know? But man, that was the most devastating thing. I think Rossi getting injured was It was harder on me than either my parents dying. And to see him like see him in the hospital like that fucked me up. So I quit riding. I was done. I was like, I had no interest really, you know?
Yeah.
And for a long time, my biggest priority was helping him make the transition as smoothly as possible. You know, so we had the fundraisers, and I have to really, thank my wife and my kids, because they took a back seat for a while. But damn, dude, you're like Oprah. Yeah, I mean, taking care of Ross was the biggest thing for me, you know? He done so much for me growing up, but one day we're eating lunch and he goes, "Hey man, you're getting fat." And I go,
just pries a little.
Yeah, he just, "Hey man, you're getting fat." And I'm all, "Well, dude, I don't ride anymore. You know, I've been riding." And he's all, "Fuck, you better not be because of me, you know." And I'm all, "Well, dude, you know, I don't really have that desire to ride anymore." And typical Ross fashion, you know, Mr. Words of Wisdom, he goes, "Hey, look, I rode 4 times a week for like 40 years of my life. And if this is the price I have to pay for all that fun I had, I'd do it again." Yeah. When he said that to me, I was like, wow. And I came home that night and I was still, like, I was super depressed that whole time. And like, I was laying on my bed all bummed out. And my little one, Megan, comes flying in the bedroom and does this giant like belly flop onto the bed. Like she always used to do that. And we're talking. And she's like, we were talking about, you know, riding and stuff. And she goes, "Dad, why aren't you riding?" And I said, "Well, because, you know, Uncle Ross got paralyzed, you know, and that's my biggest fear. And it's very real now, you know." She goes, "Wow, what are the chances of 2 brothers both having the same injury?" And I was like, man, I took this like little 10-year-old to bring this into perspective. And I started riding again, and like, you know, as cheesy as it is, you know, my race number was always 10, you know, because like that was the last number I earned on my 3-wheeler. And so, yeah, Ross always ran number 8 because that was his last like serious competition number. He was ranked 8th in California, but yeah, so I changed my number to 4-8, 40 riding for Ross. And it's pretty funny because like I rode for like 2 weeks and was like talking to my buddy Mark Tilley, who worked at DRD at the time, and I'm like, and he was going to the World Mini, so I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to the World Mini. So I went to the World Mini, and it's pretty funny. I won the 30 and 40 classes at the World Mini that year. The first time race with number 48, and I was like, just like, as cliche as it sounds, I was like, "Oh, dude, I won for you, Ross." I called him.
Were you on the podium with your speech?
I called him after I won, and I was all pumped. I'm all, "Ross, I won." And he's all, "Cool. Hey, you know, me and Damon are at the Chinese restaurant. I'll call you later." Hangs up. So, I don't know. But yeah, dude, people don't understand when people get paralyzed. They think, "Oh, fuck, it sucks. He can't walk." Well, he can get in and out of his car into that chair. It's cool. But there's so much more that comes along with being a paraplegic, life challenges and everything. And
well, I feel I've told a few people this. I feel a little messed up saying this, but I think it's pretty true. If being in the chair was the only problem they had, they would be pretty well off. for the most part. There's a lot of health issues that come with it and stuff. And I didn't realize that till I was around your brother. I was like, same thing as motocross, you always have that fear of being in a chair. And I just thought of sitting in the chair, like just the notion of sitting in the chair. I'm like, oh, that would ruin me.
Yeah.
And then I see how your brother lives his life, but see what comes up. I'm like, no, it's not what I like. It's you remember a day a day, but
yeah, no, dude, like, wow. From the pro ride message board days, I thought you were such a dork, and like it was like you'd make me so mad all the time. But like I always tell everybody, I go, dude, I've got this soft spot for Michael because he's so good to my brother. You know, like when Ross got hurt, if I couldn't be there, I'd call you and I'd know that you were there, and it always gave me peace of mind, you know. So that's why I value our friendship, is because you were so good to Ross, and you still are, you know. So
he's like a second dad. I tell him all the time. He's by far, I always laugh being around him. He's by far one of the most, like, I'd laugh. I think the one year we're like Christmas Eve, and he hits me and goes, hey, Chisholm got dropped by his rider saying, I want to go help him test tomorrow. Can you go down and grab the box? And he's just like, dude, nothing gets, he's just like, he's always down to help somebody.
Yeah.
Which is sometimes I give him crap. I'm like, I think this guy probably stabbed you in the back one time, but he's like, yeah, I'm still going to help him.
Yeah, right. And then it's like, he helps too many people with Enzo. He gives too many discounts.
Will's over there just like, God. No, so are you pretty, I guess, there was something, are you, I mean, this wasn't probably what you were expecting. Like I said, 1 month ago before another crappy rainy day in SoCal. I'm still watching rain. Yeah. But before that day, I mean, this is probably not even close to what you expected life looking like a month later. But now that it's starting to come together, are you pretty excited?
Yeah, you know, dude, there was a time when I felt like I was in the pits with 2 flat tires and a seized engine, you know. But things are coming together. I've got a good team of guys, and I have an amazing, generous investor that's been this huge blessing. And yeah, I feel like I'm buckling my boots right now, getting ready to go to the starting line. SwapMoto Live's got a website. Again, back to my kids being awesome. Like my daughter Samantha, my oldest one, has helped me with the podcast tremendously, you know. And then she's like totally my rock, dude. Like when I came home from getting fired that day, like at work that day, I was like strong as I could be for like all the guys, you know, like guys freaking out. And I got home and dude, I'd lost it, you know, because this is like a big part of my life. And so my oldest daughter, Sammy, she's like, she says like, hey, don't worry, Dad, you know, if you're don't worry about money and stuff. Like I'm buying the family groceries from here on out. I mean, even something, a gesture like that, you know, it's just like, man, I had this feeling of like, man, I'm a failure. You know, I did this magazine and it's just yanked out from under me. It's gone.
Like, what do I have to show?
Yeah. I was like, what do I have to show for? What purpose do I have in my life? And it's like, that only lasted a little while because I realized that like my greatest accomplishment is my kids, you know? And so Sam has been amazing around the house, but Megan, you know, still in college, she's like, comes home that day, and I want to say we got laid off on Thursday. Saturday was San Diego Supercross. We still went. And Sunday I built SwapMotoLive.com, the website. And granted, it's just a template website, but dude, this shit's still complicated and hard to figure out. So Megan gets on there and she's all, Dad, get out of the way.
Let me show you how this is done.
She was the webmaster for her club at school, and she whipped the thing together and figured all this stuff out. And it was just so amazing, dude. I like went to bed, and Monday morning she's all, come look. And she built this whole website, and she built a subscription newsletter list and everything. And so she's running the back end of the website right now and handling the newsletter and saying that all out. But so yeah, that site, yeah, I want to say there's 40 something posts up there since February 2nd. So obviously generating content is easy for me to do in spite of all this other turmoil I'm dealing with. I'm still generating that much stuff, putting it up, Anton and I. But we have a WordPress site that's, I want to say it's built and it's ready to go now. I just need to get on the backside and populate all that content from the Squarespace site over here. And then we're going to turn it on and go and hit the road and start selling ads and all that stuff. So, I mean, I know the sharks were circling. There's blood in the water. And
I told you that too. So I'm like, I think there's people already hunting for that money.
Yeah, all these people calling, you know, on our advertisers like, hey, Transworld's gone, let's spend that money over here. But I will tell you that a core group of big supporters have said, hey, people are calling, but we're not going to spend it anywhere until you tell us you're not doing anything. So industry support has been amazing and super humbling. But hopefully we hit the ground running here within a couple weeks and make it into something good, you know?
Round 3, this one's all yours.
Third time's a charm, right?
Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy.
If you enjoyed this episode of the Off-Camber Podcast, make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with us. On this channel, you'll also find plenty of product reviews and bike tests. And if you want to hear just the audio, look below in the description. You should find the link to all your favorite podcast centers. Thanks again for listening.